That was the old live.
Alive.
Okay.
Oh, you ended it. Okay, you're redoing it now.
All right. We are live. Sorry for the technical difficulties. You guys, it was telling me I couldn't go live, but I am live. So
Okay.
welcome to the
Can you hear
Black
me?
Love Club.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to those who are tuned in over the radio.
I'm really excited about today's show. We have some really awesome guests with us today, which I'm really, really excited to have you guys because when we were coming up with the topics, we were thinking about we wanted like real conversations. That's what we've been talking about, real
Mhm.
conversations. We did fatherhood, motherhood, and we was like now today people are in businesses, they're doing different things, entrepreneurships, they're running foundations and I probably said it definitely wrong, but CEOs and different things like that, you know, and it's beautiful and it's just like wow, how as a married couple, how do you and y'all been married for some years,
Yeah.
so how do you keep it all together? How do you run it? People want to know these things because what I hear from a lot of people is, yeah, turn me am
Hmm.
I up? All right. But
There
from
we
a lot
go.
of people, I hear like people they don't get the realness of marriage. They hear, they see like the Instagram stuff, and they're like, they see people running businesses
Hmm.
together,
Hmm.
but do people talk about the maybe some of the things that may arise, the things you may go through, so that it can, when people actually go through it, they feel relatable. But you guys, I have some amazing guests here. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. I gave y'all just a little topic, a little bit of what we are talking about. Thank you everybody who's tuning in right now. And let me in. Well, I'm gonna first go ahead and introduce them, and then y'all tell me something about yourselves. Okay. Yeah. So I have with us today Karen and Chad Cherry.
Hmm.
I'm really excited. We met them out here in Tulsa.
Yep.
And it has been really awesome getting to know you guys. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself individually and together.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna let the man go first
Okay.
because you know
Appreciate
I
you.
always like feed off of his vibe of like how he does his introduction. So
That's what's up. Appreciate you,
absolutely.
babe. My name is Chef Chad Cherry. Um, yeah, how did I just lose a blank right there? Anyway, yes, we did meet you guys here in Tulsa. We are also transplants. I can no longer say I'm new to Tulsa. My daughter told me that, and my wife told me that the other day. We've been here for about a year and a half. I run an organization that my wife and I co-founded about 7 years ago called Chef Culture. It's an ecosystem to help support independent Black and Brown community-focused food businesses. Basically, we are attacking food justice from the standpoint of instead of investing in more grocery stores or farms, which we both need, we're investing in the entrepreneur, the culinary professional, which in layman's terms, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, someone in the community that is trained in culinary, that's producing food, may have a business or may have something that looks like business. We're showing them how to take that and turn that into true business that not only supports them, but helps to heal, build, and grow their communities. So that's what I do.
That's
I always
awesome.
love it when he says that when he gives the spiel. My name is Karen Pandy Cherry, and I am the president and CEO of a national nonprofit called New Leaders Council.
Mhm.
And New Leaders Council is an organization that trains and uplifts folks who we consider to be proximate leaders. What that means is we create opportunities for folks who are across identities. They're going to work in different industry areas and they focus on a variety of issues as well. But they're the ones that are closest to their communities. In New Leaders Council, we have folks who are in the White House on staff. We have folks who are
Mhm.
Congress people, and in every seat in federal, state, and local government. But then we
Wow.
also have alums who are on the ground in their
Yep.
communities. They lead the protests. They're the ones who know their neighbors' names and are really advocating on the ground. And we have alums that connect the dots all the way through because in NLC, we really believe that there needs to be connectivity between the people who are making decisions over our lives and the people who are in the communities and closest to our opportunities. And so that's what NLC is. And then together, Chad and I have been married for 15 years.
Yeah.
And we have amazing kids. They're not kids anymore. Like our oldest daughter, Katana, is
Zai is still.
28.
Yeah.
Our oldest daughter is 28. We have a
Mhm.
daughter who's 21, and then a son who's 12. And so we are always excited to include our family in all of the work that we do, because like community building, community movement, entrepreneurship is what we've always done, and everything that we do, I think, feeds into that.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I have a question. So before we get into the topics, I just want to say these people are phenomenal people. Just like we said last week, that we found the perfect people for the topic of fatherhood, and the week before we found the perfect person for the topic of motherhood.
Yes.
Right. But I just want to remind our listeners, to those that are listening on the radio, we are in our real conversation series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we are equipping people to ask real conversations for people who have been in these positions. So if you are able to call in, please call in and ask questions.
Or even comment in the chat.
In the comments,
Yeah.
in the chats. Yes, please.
'Cause
Those
sometimes
who
it's a
are
whole lot easier.
those who are watching the stream, please comment in the chat.
Yes, thank you. And also, guys, we're streaming live on YouTube as well. I just wanted to put that out there. We're streaming live on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for who are tuning in on YouTube. So if you comment something, I'm gonna read your comment. I love the engagement and everything like that. But I'm really excited about this topic. Now, one of the things I've heard a little bit about you guys' story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let y'all get into it. Tell me, what was the beginning of the entrepreneur journey for you two?
How much time you got?
It's so interesting because we have like two versions of the story, or two perspectives of the story. But I had like when Chad and I met, I had just graduated from law school, and I had this like dream of, just going out and being an advocate for the community as a lawyer. And like, that's what I was going to do. I was going to, take down the man and like really just help people solve their problems. And when I got out of law school, I was like, I have law school loans. So I'm gonna have to take this job that is like paying me the money that I need to pay my loans and my bills. And so I got into pharmaceutical litigation, and I felt it was such a soul sucking job that I ended up working for a nonprofit. And that nonprofit was doing advocacy in a city called Opelika. And they hired Chad to do a cooking demonstration. Mm-hmm. And from that cooking demonstration, we became friends. And
I mean, she said it like that. Understand, right? They hired me to do the demo, and they kept saying, "You got to meet Karen. You got to meet Karen." I'm like, I'm sure I'll meet her, right? So we meet each other, and my daughter will tell you that she's the reason why we know each other. But because I actually met Kirsten first, and we started talking. She said we became friends. No, I straight up hassled her for about 3 months before she would actually talk to me on a regular basis.
So he was chasing you.
He was definitely chasing. I
had to go. I was like, listen, I'm going to bring the kids food. She's like, what? I was like, I'm bringing them food. And then they kept asking for more. So then she had to talk to me.
Yeah, the girls were really young, and I had been divorced, and I was like, I'm not interested in a relationship. I just need to handle my own, not worry about like getting into anything with anybody. And so he did chase for a little while, but we became friends after that. And he had started a business. He'd sort of broken off from his previous partners and struck out on his own in a business. And I'm watching this man. I have an entrepreneurial background because like I had my first business at 15 because my father was an entrepreneur. And so when I met Chad, I had like business knowledge and acumen and skills and all those things. And my bachelor's degrees in like organizational development. And so I'm looking at him running around for hours every day. He slept like maybe 2 hours a night. And he's trying to do this food business, and he's trying to do it from a position of really benefiting our community. And so he's trying to like do all of this, and he's not sleeping. but he's falling asleep in the car when he's like doing deliveries. Like he was shopping, he was shopping in the grocery store and it was taking him like hours. And I'm asking him like as a friend, like, what are you doing?
Just shopping.
I was like, why are you?
We didn't believe in grocery lists at that point in time in our lives. It was just like, oh, what do we want to make tomorrow? I don't know. Let's think about it.
There is no structure to your business whatsoever.
I mean, the structure was that people wanted food, and I made it and sold it.
That's what a woman comes in at.
Exactly,
exactly,
right? Like I sat back and I watched him, and it just was not the healthiest way for him to do business either. Chad's a type 2 diabetic, and so the stress, the not sleeping, all of those things really played a part in how he was running his business. And so as a friend, I'm looking at him and I'm like, this is not sustainable. And so I stopped working for the nonprofit and really started helping Chad. Like, hey, let me help you create some structure. Let me help you get to the place where you can be more efficient and really make more money and take care of yourself better.
Yeah, right. That's beautiful. And like, right there at that point, you guys were just still friends.
We were still friends. We were still friends.
We were dating. We were friends. We were dating. Well, yeah. Okay. So here's the thing, right? It wasn't totally official because she kept saying that she didn't want anything serious. Yeah. She just didn't want anything serious. So I was like, all right, bet. Shortly after, though, I was informed that I had been wrong. I had been mistaken this whole thing. We had apparently been dating the whole time, but I'm like, you told me something else.
Well, we were friends, and as friends, we stayed on the phone with one another because now remember, he's not sleeping. Mm-hmm. He's not sleeping. I was actually an insomniac as well. So like I was working a lot. And so I was up the same time he was up. And so we spent hours and hours and hours on the phone. And he would tell me about the girls. He was like I'm talking to this girl and that girl. And I would give him advice in the beginning. And then at some point things started to shift and change. And so I told him, I was like, okay, so you can't tell me about the girls anymore. And he's like, why? Because I'm not unbiased anymore. Well, I don't understand what that means. It means I like you, bro. It means I like you. And now, yes, we are dating because I've decided that we're dating.
Because she decided.
Because I decided.
Because she was like, the rest of them not good.
They're not good for you. They're not good for you. They're not gonna work out for you. And so then our business relationship really turned we sort of like turned up the volume on trying to create a life together and really be in business with one another.
Yep.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Go ahead. What encouraged you guys to choose the business that you chose?
Which one? That's the real question. I mean, I think if you're talking about, well, are you talking about chef culture? Or are you talking? Well,
I would say so. The first business,
because it's more of an evolution, right?
Like it was an evolution. So the first business that we got into was the one that I said he had like just launched it when we met,
right?
And that was a business that really used organic and locally sourced ingredients to be able to feed our communities. Yes, and so he was doing a combination of cooking demonstrations because he had done the previous partners that he was with, they had a restaurant and they became really popular in the design district, got a lot of awards. There was a GAT rated, all kinds of stuff for the restaurant. And they decided that they were going to do a bike tour around the state of Florida, 40 days. It was like 40 days. They would ride and stop each day at a college or university. And they would do cooking demonstrations and just talk to people about like themselves and their food and their mission and all of those things. By the time they were done with that tour, they had lost everything. So they hadn't paid the bill for in their house and sort of everything molded. So he had lost everything by the time. Molded. Yeah, he'd lost everything by the time he came back. And he had been impacted in a way his partners weren't, because he was watching the people that were showing up talking about like organic and locally sourced food, and they didn't look like us.
No.
Right?
The people that supported us on the tour and our clients, they were all white folk, man. But every community, especially when you're in Florida, there's a ton of black and brown people. And just like, all right, I pull up on a black person, I'm talking about organic something. They had no idea what I was talking about.
Mm.
And I was like, well, how I'm going to be a black chef, that's doing this and I'm not teaching my people anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we met, he really was trying to unlock the code.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to figure out, well, how do I get as much healthier, culturally relevant food to my people as possible?
And at the same time, it's having that real life struggle of like, yo, we still have rent to pay. We still have car note. We still have other stuff. And it was just like, okay, I really want to do this thing and make sure my people eat, but I still need to eat. So that was a very interesting time for that first business, which is part of the reason why we were hustling as hard as we were.
Yeah. So when I ended up leaving the nonprofit, like I said, and
we went all in.
We went all in. Like I left I left my firm as well, and a lot of it was prayer, like me praying and being like, okay, God, I feel like you're telling me to help in a way that's like, gonna seem really insane to a whole lot of people, and it did. My family was like trying to do like interventions and stuff. Like, you graduated law school, why are you getting into a food business? What is wrong with you? But we really went with the skill that Chad had.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, a skill I had in the sense of food, but a skill she had in the sense of organization. So I think when we got together, I was doing maybe like 25, 30 meals a day and struggling to execute that. And we quickly went up to, 80 plus. Basically all we can make, all we could sell. Like literally we could have made more. We just didn't have time. And with my wife and me, like the combo, her influence on organizing, on looking at structures, on looking at systems, on working with people allowed us to scale in a way that I wasn't able to. But then her challenging me, which I did not like so much most of the time. I remember we got into a place where I was driving, we were driving about 200 miles a day.
Mm.
Like it was so crazy. It was more than that, but it was so crazy because in 1 month we did 10,000 miles on a car. Cause I remember going between oil changes and the people looking at me like, are those numbers correct? And I was like, yes.
Wow.
And my wife said to me, she goes, we're doing all these miles because you're going here, 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 here. You're going anywhere people will order from you instead of saying, no, this is the area I serve and focusing on an area. I was highly resistant to it because I'm like, yo, if someone got $10
such a cute
for me,
way of saying it, highly resistant. We got into this is about the real, right? Like we have a real conversation. We got into knockdown, drag out fights because
not physical fights.
Not physical fights, but you were stubborn. And I am stubborn.
I mean, I'm a person who my mind is not all the way made up, but you're gonna have to convince me.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's most men.
Yeah.
That's why we tend to be stubborn. I had to realize myself, she's trying to help.
She's trying to I'm on your side, bro. I'm on your side. So
and it's it is interesting the way we all look at things. I mean, what ended up happening is she ended up being right about the business and focusing. So I was able to do the same number of meals in a much smaller geographic area. However, what I was right about was that I didn't just I never looked at a client as someone who's just a one-time client.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always looked at my clients as people I could build relationships with that you never know, we may do some business with in the future. You never know. So what happened was once we restricted to this area, the clients that I wasn't servicing they were friends, they were clients, they still want to do business. Yeah. So they ended up figuring out other ways to do business with me, which ended up growing our business to the next level because now we're getting catering and we're getting birthday parties. So like, okay, well, if it doesn't make sense for you to come out here for $10, which was a hard conversation for me to say, hey, not saying I don't want your money, because, you're almost telling someone like, yo, your money ain't good enough for me. And it's not that. It's just it didn't make business sense. They said, well, what if you come out to do my jobs event, do this? So then we had to learn a whole nother set of skills And then we started getting some contract options, and it literally snowballed. Yeah, I mean, that's the very simplistic version of it. And if we're
Yeah.
given a real, the business would grow. And it's like, you know how like one good thing happens and like two bad things happen and then one good thing happens? The business would grow and then something in life would go crazy. You know, like
Yeah.
there were times when, especially early on, like I think the first thing that happened, I had a crazy ex-girlfriend steal my truck.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like while we were like broke into
The house.
the apartment that we were in, and like we woke up to her like standing over us, crazy.
Yeah, crazy, bro.
Yeah,
You didn't want to leave then?
I
wait,
did.
you got like all these crazy
Let me tell you
people coming
something.
Man.
I did. Because remember, I didn't want to get into a relationship in the first place. And the reason why I told him I didn't want to get into a relationship was because I was like, I don't need drama in my life. I had 2 girls at the time. They were small. I was like, I am not a person who does drama. Like my life is I'm very logical. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like I had very specific rules for myself and for my life. And my husband broke almost every single one of them.
I did. And yeah. And so, you know, it was really up and down. But for some crazy reason, not crazy, it had to be God. Like
it was.
We never stopped the business. And there were times where it was like,
wow.
For anybody else, I mean, for anybody else, they would have been like, God is obviously telling you to stop that business.
Yeah.
And we was like, no, that's not what he's saying. How do you know that's not what he's saying? Especially our family. How do you know that's not what he's saying?
Yeah.
There's no way he could be supporting y'all in your decision, especially like the first time we ended up homeless and the girls had to go live with her sister. We were sleeping in our car at a Walmart parking lot, you know, showering at the gym. And we still kept the business going. It was so bad. Our car had an oil leak so bad, right? that I'm putting in $1.25 per day. We ain't need no oil change. Just had a leak. And then the trunk didn't close. So we took a string and tied it to the trunk. And you know how in the back seat, the middle compartment comes down and it goes to the trunk. Most people know. We took a string, tied it to the trunk, tied it to a glass, poured it through.
Coca-Cola glass. From McDonald's.
Because we wasn't buying nothing. It just came with the McDonald's thing. And we put the little middle armrest up. This was a Honda Civic. And just used that as leverage to keep the trunk down. The glass and the string held it in place, keep the trunk down while we were driving.
Y'all was getting creative.
So it was like flapping. People be pulling up to us like,
your trunk is open. We know.
We know.
We know. And then
we know.
That car, man, like we would have to go do an event and you'd have all kinds of stuff in the car. And I would literally be like, we have to park down the block. I cannot drip this oil in their driveway. Like, I don't even want them to see this joint.
So we park like a half a mile away and just truck everything.
Yeah. And just literally just walk. You know, you do what you have to do. And you look back on it like, did we really do that?
We came through some interesting things. I think, you know, for your listeners to be able to relate, like we started this podcast saying like what we do now as a job. But like, if we're going to talk about the real, I think what's really important is to say this is not always where we were.
No.
Yeah.
And we haven't arrived anywhere. Right? Like there's no arrival, but like to understand that like we've been homeless twice because we made the decision to continue our business.
We got evicted like 3 times.
Oh, we got evicted 4 times.
Was it 4?
It was like once every year for 4 years.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was.
The first 4 years we got together.
They was the reason why they made the laws that you can't.
You listen.
They were like, wait,
once every year.
Now
every year for 4
how
years.
as a woman, because nowadays women have the mindset that they're not going to struggle. They would consider that struggle love.
Yeah.
So
yes.
most of what we've learned before is that no, you stick it out and it's going to work out, right?
Yeah.
So how do you relate that to like the newer generation now that is saying no, that struggle love, I can't stick with that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It was absolutely struggle love. Like 100%. There were so many times and instances where I tried to leave. Not like physically, but I would like tell him like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. This does not make sense. Like I have a degree, I have multiple degrees. Like I should just go back and like, you know, get back into like corporate America and do the 9 to 5. And
Now we tried once or twice.
my husband is like the most amazing like man, like will give you the shirt off of his back.
Yeah.
He is a visionary. He is a genius in so many ways. And I am the only one who can manage my husband, right? Like I'm the only one who can handle him. And so I think what I will say is that I leaned on God. I leaned on God, right? I stayed with my husband because of my obedience to God. So I'm not going to sit up here and be like, it was love. It kept us together. No, God kept us together. Yeah. Because at every turn when I wanted to leave, I went back to God and I said, are you sure? Because when we got engaged, I wasn't sure then. Like we got engaged in the middle of a fight. It wasn't like a romantic, he you know, sprinkled roses and whatnot. It was because I was walking away. I told him, I was like, I don't do drama. I told you I don't do drama. I also don't look backwards. Like this is who I am as an individual. So we were fighting when he proposed, and I went to God then, like, God, I believe that you are telling me that this is what you want me to do. If it's not what you want me to do, then you need to show me. Because I don't believe, I don't see it. Everybody else is saying no. And so I literally spent the last 15 years on my knees before God. I am in submission to God, and then I am in submission to my husband. And that, to me, that struggle is not a struggle for my husband. That struggle is the refining of me in the process that God has me in.
And and it's funny, you said earlier in the show, he's like, yo, two different perspectives. We do. Men and women are so different. And this younger generation talking about struggle love. And I always say, like, yo, when you know better, you do better, right? Like, we didn't understand anything about business cycles. So
true.
you look at getting evicted 4 times, it was a result of a business cycle.
Yeah.
We made money. We always made a lot of money at one time a year. So go ahead, get the place, pay for a couple months. But then you always had a downturn at the same time of year again. Yeah. So once we realized, oh, shoot, that's a business cycle, right? Once you learn better, right? And they talk about they don't want to struggle. There is very little progress without struggle. You don't know who you are without struggle. You don't know that the person you're with, like, if y'all don't fight for each other, like, is it really real? And that's why I think because they won't struggle, that's why they're so quick to leave each other as soon as something goes crazy. You know, it's like, how do you ever build a legacy if you don't have any struggle? Right. Because you don't have, literally, without the struggle, you're never building a foundation. Basically, without struggle, you've just, and nothing has gone wrong, majorly wrong. Yeah. All that means is you just got lucky.
Yeah. You never been tested.
Yeah, you've never been tested. Yeah. Statistically, things are going to go wrong. And it's not what you do when things are right. It's what you do when things are wrong that shows your true character. So we talk about struggle. Like I said, as a man, I mean, I am so happy my wife had the faith that she had. Right? That wasn't my shared experience. For me, it was more like, hey, there is no plan B. Like, if we end this, we end this. Right? And more importantly, what we're doing, what kept us focused is what we're doing is not for us. Like, when I come home, look at the kids, it's for them. Right. Like, this is legacy for them. Like, I know what legacy I could teach them by quitting. I know what legacy I could teach them by rocking a 9 to 5 right now. Right? If I want to show them what real freedom looks like, if I want to show them what living with their ideals and standing for something looks like, this is what we have to stand for.
I love that.
You already answered my question. My question was going to be to you guys, like, what would encourage you guys to keep pushing? But before you answer that, because I know you're ready, we have a call on the air, and I think they want to ask you guys a question.
Let's go.
Hey, caller, you're on the air. Hello.
Okay, so we lost them.
It's all right. We got a caller, though. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to type your question in the chat, you can also do that as well.
Just call back. We got answers for you.
We do. We got a
So,
few.
but you had said something. So I actually, for your point of view as a wife, which was beautiful. I think it's beautiful when you stand in that submission to God and you're saying, you know what, this is my husband. I'm gonna go with that because in today's world, there's so much. It's kind of scary because I love to see women out here with degrees, doing their thing, but also sometimes I feel like it can put them in a position where they feel as though some of them feel like, well, I don't need a man, or well, what can they do for me? So just to
Yeah.
see that is a beautiful thing. Hey, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
good.
hear you.
Loud and clear.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Do you need to turn it up?
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
us?
hear him. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I thought that was just real beautiful. But one question I want to ask you, look at my hair, y'all. Y'all see that? It's just like flipping all I wanted to ask you because one thing my husband, he always talks about, as a man, they have a need to provide, right? So when you're in the position of going homeless, but you have a dream and you have a vision, you know, how is it as a man to say, because you did speak a little bit about the legacy that you were leaving, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you convince yourself to stay focused to that legacy and not say, you know what, my family just needs some money. I got to go and grab a job. I'll pick this up later. Like,
No, facts. That's a great
That's a good
question,
question.
man. Because like, um, oh, hey, caller.
All right. All right.
Hey.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, I just wanted to say to the lovely couple, I like that y'all did not give up easily. Like y'all prayed, talked to God, worked with each other, got some evictions and stayed. Because some people just burn out in a quick second,
Thank you.
especially
Thank
when
you.
things get rough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's-
that
Oh,
is
you're
beautiful.
welcome.
Yeah, man.
thank you so much.
We
Well, thank you,
appreciate you
caller.
listening.
Oh, I'll be listening.
Let's go.
Thank you for calling in.
Y'all take care. You're welcome. Have a good
too.
one.
You too.
All right. Well, yeah, what you about to say? Come on,
Yeah,
get
no,
it.
it wasn't. I've grown to accept the fact that I might be slightly neurodivergent, right? Like my brain doesn't focus like other people. So what some people may see as obvious, it's not obvious to me. So quitting actually was not obvious to me. I said I need some extra money, so I side hustle. I will find a way, bro, to bring in some extra money. But it just didn't. The math wasn't mathing. Like if you keep it a buck, I can go somewhere and make. Well, as you answer, I'll pause.
KBOB, please hold.
This is exciting.
This
I'm
is
loving
very
it.
exciting.
I'm
So
loving the calls.
I'm a
You want
chef.
me-
Okay.
Then I'll make this answer super quick. Then I'm a chef. As a chef, when I first started, I couldn't imagine getting paid, $50 an hour. Right now, that's not even my minimum. If I went to work somewhere, because I don't have a degree, I was not breaking $20 an hour somewhere. The math wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
So I can work really, really hard for 1 or 2 days doing an event and make a couple grand, but then I'm off for the rest of the week, so I got a side hustle. Or I could go work a job, maybe make 500 that week, maybe 1,000 a week, depending on what the job is, right? You see what I'm saying? The math wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I just got to double down and just keep focusing. And I was able to see the growth. And I don't care if I only move an inch forward. Being able to see the growth, I was like, yo, babe, if we just hold, if we just hold, and every time we were truly ready to give up, God would just come through like, yo, here's a check.
Yeah.
And when we come back, I know there's a caller on hold, but when we come back, I'll respond to that from the women's side of things because I think that perspective is important.
Yes. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, sounds good. So I was listening to the lovely couple a couple of takes back, and I heard something that was kind of like, to me, a bit disturbing. The young lady said that don't submit to her husband directly, but she submits to God, and through God, she submits to her husband. And I wanted to know, do she think that's fair? Because I don't think the Bible promotes a woman to submit to God and through God submit to her husband. But rather the Bible suggests that the woman should solely submit to her husband as he follows God. So to me, it's kind of like that's unfair, because if you feel that your husband is treating you some type of way and you in your mind feel that God has told you to leave the situation, which I know he won't, but you say that if let's hypothetically say that he's telling you to leave because you feel like you're being mistreated, is that fair to him, rather than saying, you know what, I know that I don't feel comfort in this point in time by my husband. And forgive me too, y'all. This echo is bad.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to think, but
yeah,
I kind of lost my train of thought. You guys probably
no, I got
you're
it.
good. Good
I got
question.
it.
help
I
me
got
out
it.
there.
So what
All
I
right,
will,
so yeah, please.
I got you. So what I will say about our relationship is that I go to God for myself. My relationship with God is mine. My husband goes to God himself as well. And then we come together to like have conversations. Now, in our household, if I want to go in one direction and my husband wants to go in another, we have discussions and conversations. And it might be me really trying to convince him on the way that we're going to go. But ultimately, when that decision needs to be made, we go where he wants to go.
Yeah.
So like we'll wrestle, we'll go back and forth, and I'll be like, let me show you my perspective. And there have been many instances where that has happened. Like we've gotten into the direction of our business,
direction of
even
our family,
the direction of our family, the kids, all those things. We'll get into a tussling, but like we will go to God separately, like, okay, God, I'm not really understanding, right? And so that submission of being like, when I say, God, like, hey, you have dominion over my life, over my decisions, all of those things. He does the same thing. When we come together and we wrestle, we are always wrestling to get to each other. So like in our relationship, no one of us has like more power over the other. No one of us has like more submission over the other. But biblically, when my husband says, hey, this is what we're doing, I know that like that's the direction that we're going to go.
And so
now, from a woman's standpoint,
yeah.
the last thing I'll say is from a woman's standpoint, what is hard for us then is to not come back if it doesn't work out, if the decision that he made does not work out, it's hard. Like then I'm hard pressed to not be like, see, I told you. And that's why I said, you know what I mean? And so it's like over the last 15 years, like we've really like wrestled with that of me. Cause like women see a wider, like just by the way that we're wired, we see a wider landscape than men can see, right? Like he'll be like, we got to make this money because I got to pay these bills and we got to put the kids in school and the car needs to be fixed. And so he's thinking like that. And I'm sort of seeing things from a wider lens. And so it's like we as women have a lot of work to do. I know men have a lot of work to do. When I was talking about my experience,
right?
We have a lot of work to do to really be in that. So that's why the submission to God is important, because that submission to God is what allows you to not respond, or even when you do respond in that human sense, to be able to have God to go to and say, God, like, I don't even really see a way out of this. Right. And so both of those submissions are really important. Sorry, babe. Go ahead.
No. Oh, I mean, you got it, fam.
I think that's a beautiful perspective you gave us too, because I think we don't spend enough time thinking like what goes through the woman's mind when a man struggles.
Yeah.
You guys have a challenge too, and I think what you said was gold for the younger women who are getting in committed relationships. When things get hard, you really have to struggle to not say "I told you so" or anything in that manner. I mean, nothing should reflect that, because from the man's perspective, um, we've been through our struggle as well, and it gets hard. And you feel like all I have in that moment is your wife. So if your wife says, "I told
Yep.
you," it's like, well, dang,
That's the one person that could get to you.
yeah,
You fought the world all day and come home and got to fight your wife.
yeah, yeah. So it's just like we see you guys as our resting place.
Mm-hmm.
So when we come to you in those times, or sometimes, I mean, we can be, as men, we can be tough, so we could try to appear to be tough, so we won't come to you. And I'm learning, just from last week or 2 weeks ago, that we should be vulnerable in those times, but for men, that's a hard task for us.
Yeah. Can I tell you that, and I told you this one time, babe. I don't remember what the topic was or what we were sort of like going back and forth on. And I told him, I said, what you have to understand, Chad, is that I am wired to help you.
Yes.
And I'm like, when Chad brings me a vision of what he wants, or he brings me a problem, I am hardwired to help him figure it out. Even if he's not asking for me to help him figure it out, I am hardwired to help him figure it out.
Yeah.
And so what happens a lot in relationships with women, and I told him this, is that sometimes when I am doing those calculations in my mind, I see him as being the enemy to himself.
Mm.
I see him, the way that he is, or what he's doing, or, even in business, he's going after, like, I see him going after every dollar, right? And I see that thinning out his life, because I know that he's exhausted, and I know that he's driving when he's tired, and that could lead to a car accident. And I know that it means that his medication is going to be off, right? So like, I'm thinking in this wider landscape. And so when I'm doing my calculations, I am seeing how much he himself is a danger to himself. And so sometimes we as women, when we are talking to our partners, to our men, the men feel like we're just coming against them as them.
We
right?
do.
Like,
We do.
but I think what we as women have to be able to articulate is, I love you. And I love you so much that I will fight you against you in the ways that you can't see how you're being detrimental to yourself. Like, I will fight you against you. I will fight me if I am the problem in this equation, because I am hardwired to help you get to where you want to be. A good example of that for us is that I always told Chad in the beginning of our business marriage, I told him, I said, you see yourself as a chef. You're only as good as your last plate. Chefs have huge egos because people only remember their last meal.
Remember the food, yeah.
And there's so many of them that you have to really fight as a chef to like help people remember you. And it's why chefs are so burnt out. It's why they're so sick. It's why they have mental health issues and substance abuse issues, because they're constantly fighting to get that sort of recognition. And I told him, I said, you have so much more value than that.
Yeah.
You can be a chef among chefs.
Definitely.
You can be the chef that brings chefs together. So I started telling him that vision 15 years ago. You are selling yourself short. You can be so much more, because I saw the desire in his heart and I heard what he was saying he wanted to accomplish. Right. And so as a woman, just once my man gives me that vision of like, this is where I want to go, I am locked in. But we didn't have that conversation in the beginning because I didn't know how to articulate it to tell him like, yo, you gave me a mission, sir. And we're going after this mission. He really just felt like I was, just nagging all the time, like constantly sort of like being frustrated, but it was really the mission that I was on. So I think as women, really being able to, in times where you're not in conflict with one another, really like rubbing his head, getting a meal, sitting and talking about the fact that I am hardwired to like help and support.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is just how you said it, because there's times where we help, and I'm just trying to help, and it's all in the way of what you said, just like you said, how you articulate it. So it's like, I have to find that way in which to say it so that he can understand. And sometimes he take a step back and he say, okay, I understand it the way you said it. But I think it's also very good for people to know that this is a partnership. We come together, just like you said, we come together, we're talking, and it's like we're going to talk about what's going to happen, just like the same with you. If he says, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, but at the same time, sometimes I'm going to give my input, if that's where we're at, like, okay, if we do this is also what I see. Just because you just like you said, women, we do see like the wider range, because we were talking about like having another child, and I was just thinking, well, if we have another child right now, I don't feel comfortable because of this right now, because this is all I can see. Because I see the physical load, the mental load, I see everything. And I don't just see the cute little baby, even though they be cute and all. It's like, it's a lot. It's a lot, So I see every other thing that child brings, and as much of a blessing they are, it's just like I have to know that we are ready, like we're in a space, in that space. So we, that was just like something recent we had a conversation about, but it's like, right, we see it all. We see it all.
You know what we just discovered? We just recently discovered that just like you said, women are wired to help. Like she said, she kind of said it without saying it, but I used to get upset because the thing is, like, men, sometimes when women are trying to help a lot, men, we see it as like an insult to our competence. So if you're always helping, it's like, dang, you don't think I can do this? You don't think I can do this? But like, women are literally wired the opposite. This is why women get upset. Like just recently, yesterday, as a matter of fact, she was upset with me because she wasn't really upset. She expressed herself so well too. But she was like, you know what? I nurse everyone in this house, and she does. She does a phenomenal job. And she said, but uh, nobody's like checking in on me, And what I've noticed about women is that women want you to read minds, and they think that men like that too. But men don't like that. When you try to read my mind, I get upset. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to verbalize when I need help. So I'm happy she vocalized that, because she could have gotten upset with me and interpreted that as I hate her. I'm not concerned about her health. But I asked, I said, I know it seems like I'm very health conscious, but what am I doing for my health? I said, whatever. The only thing I do is I eat. I change up my diet so that's what I do for my health. So I'm like, well, we changed up our diet. So when you do that, I'm looking at it as you're doing a good job. So when a man doesn't step in, when a woman doesn't say anything, for him, it's a compliment of your competence. So we're literally saying you're doing a good job if we're not trying to offer our help, But when a woman offers help, it's not necessarily saying, you're not doing a good job, but that's how men interpret it because of how we're wired.
Well, I have comments, but I'm
I actually want to know.
Come on, tell us.
I actually want to know what you think, because you do a really good job now taking care of me, and that I like. Chad does an excellent job of taking care of me, even more now than he used to. Like, I think it was a learning curve, right? So like when I am working a lot, I am very focused, and like he will laugh, the kids will laugh, that I'm actually not listening. Like, I'm in work mode. I'm not really listening or paying attention. And he will do things like notice that I have not eaten and just like bring me a plate. He won't say anything. He'll just like slide the food like right next to me. And he'll do things like take the kids out and just be like, your mom's, she's focused right now. So like he'll take them outside. If I haven't like walked or something, like he'll make sure that happens. So like you do a really good job of taking care of me. So I'm interested to know like what your feedback is, like what your thoughts are on the topic.
I mean, I just think that men and women need more time. Like going back to what you said about the struggle of and people being so quick to give up on it. Like we really speak a different language.
We
I think women forget that when men were growing up, and you're molded in your youth. When we were growing up, if we had an issue with another dude, we just fought. Y'all couldn't fight as well. No, some of y'all do. But y'all had to figure out how to talk and how to maneuver people, and we didn't develop that same skill. So even with our emotional intelligence, how we express ourselves is very, very different. Sometimes we're saying the same things, and sometimes going back to what you said about when y'all try to help us is how. It's like for us, we're going to be more sensitive to you than anybody else.
Right.
So if you coming at it, you're like, nah, I got this. If you make a man feel like he doesn't know anything and how you say it, and I just got it, you never do this right, or such and such. It's like women don't realize that sometimes they speak things, and a man is like, well, damn, son, like you really must not like me, or you really must think that I can't do anything well, or you really, and it's a tone, it's an inflection, it's the actual words, but it's also that we think differently. And so for men, like I had to learn to just pause and be like, that's not what she means. That's not what she's saying, right?
Right.
And for her, I've said to like when we first got married, I don't say it as much now, but like I used to be like, yo, it's not what you said. She's like, I just told you the truth. Yeah, you did, but you ain't have to be so damn truthful, bro. Like you ain't have to be that truthful. Like
yeah, that was her too.
Like we could be half truthful and be all right. Like
yeah,
half truthful and be all right. Because it just puts you, as a guy, like because of how we were wired to, coming back to the fighting thing. Now you done got me in fight mode, and y'all still want to talk. Well, I don't want to talk no more. I'm done, bro. I'm gonna take a walk. I'll be back.
Yeah.
I had to learn not to do that. You know what? Let me not leave because I leave until I'm calm and come back, and then she want to talk about it, and I'm like, well, I'm calm now. I don't want to get upset again, so now I really don't want to talk about it. But it wasn't resolved in her mind, so it's just we are different people, and you have to take that time and go through that struggle to figure out who each of you are and figure out how each of you deals with conflict, and then make strategies about dealing with that. And all of that is just helpful. That doesn't even solve it. It's just helpful.
That's good.
But at the end of the day, the common denominator is just it's taking the time and having the care that and I always say this to people in relationship, I'm like, yo, you would care about a stranger and treat a stranger better than sometimes you treat the person you're with. Why?
Yeah.
Like if you would have a base level of care for a stranger, you got to have at least that for the person you're with, and then you have to go on top of that and be like, you know what? No, this is the person I'm with. Let me do more, even when I don't feel like it. And it's that level of intentionality and that level of thought that then allows you to, when you're in a tough spot, to be able to move through it to you get to a place where y'all can find each other again.
Do you remember that time? So there was a time when, obviously because we have business together and the marriage and we're raising kids, like we were together 24 hours a day
for years.
And everything that we did was problem solving. Everything was problem solving. So it's like to have a relationship where 24 hours a day you're problem solving, like, how do we get these meals to these people? How do we do invoices? How do we make sure we're balancing the books? How do we pay bills?
How do we spend time with each other? How do we get Katana that thing for school she needs?
Yeah, right. So it's like
it was
24 hours a day problem solving. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to do this no more. This is too much struggle. I can't do it. And we were fighting constantly. Because then we also weren't seeing eye to eye and the decision making and things like that. And he at that time he has a value system for me now as his wife, but he has a value system for me as a professional. And that value system, like he will tell anybody, no, my wife is really smart. Like my wife, launched this for us, and this idea came from my wife. And when we originally got together, I think he had like the belief that, oh, well, I married her, so everything she has belongs to me. And so like every idea was an I idea. Like, oh, Chad. Oh, I came up with, like, how did you come up with that idea? Oh, I was sitting down and thinking about blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, that's not exactly how that happened. Right. And so he has developed now a system that really allows me to sort of have when we're in conversations with all men, because like that in the business world, that's really what it is. He like really like brings me in, and not only brings me in, but he does the work to like set me on the same level if there are people there that aren't sort of like recognizing it and realizing it. And I think in the beginning of our relationship, like that was one of the reasons why we had conflict, because there was so much that he didn't understand. I was bringing the baggage that I was bringing with me of just being a woman and sort of being in business and trying to find my place. And there was a time when we were fighting constantly. And we were standing outside of our apartment. We were in Fort Lauderdale, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I am getting off this ride because it is no longer fun. And he told me, he said, there is no plan B. We don't have a plan B. This is the plan. Nobody's getting off this ride. So we're going to have to figure out how we are going to get from where we are. And he took me to dinner. It was Outback Steakhouse. You remember this? He took me to Outback Steakhouse, and we sat across from each other, and he said, do you love me? And I was like, ugh. Yes. And he goes, good. I love you. That's our starting point. We love each other. He said, do you believe that we are better off without each other? And I had to sit and think about it for a while. And I was like, no, we are definitely better together. And he was like, okay, from here on out, whatever struggles we are facing, even if we are on opposite sides, we are going to struggle to find each other. We're going to inch closer and closer and closer and closer to each other, remembering that you love me, I love you, and we are better together.
That's beautiful.
And we had the best dinner ever.
Yeah.
And the next day, I went right back to being pissed the hell off. I was like, ah! And I was so angry. But I remembered that dinner, and I had promised myself when we got back from that dinner, I was like, you know what? My feelings are lying to me. And so what I'm going to do is the opposite of what I feel. And so we got into an argument that day, the following day.
Yep.
And I felt like running away. And instead of running away, I hugged him. Like I hugged him like growling, like and we hugged each other. Like I hugged him and then he hugged me back. And then we just hugged until it just like the feeling just dissipated. And we were in a position where we could hear each other again.
For the men out there too, I think it's also really helpful to have a business with your wife for this reason. It gives you one other thing outside of yourself that's bigger than both of you. Like your kids are bigger than both of you. Your legacy is bigger than both of you. You create a business together that's bigger than both of you. It's another anchor point where when there are like, when you're literally adrift, you can come back to this anchor point and be like, you know what? It's not just about me. And sometimes we just got to say that to ourselves, like, yo, it's not about me right now. And then you're able to kind of like, I don't know, it does something. You can come back down and then you can think more logically. I know
the individual work.
Yeah, well,
Like
that's what I'm saying.
We
All have to do it because, like, you know, guys would be quick to call women emotional, but like real talk, like we are way more sensitive than y'all. You just don't see it. We are sensitive and getting our feelings quick. And when it happens, you know, sometimes when it happens, not sometimes you're not thinking as logically as you could be. So then you've got to find a way to center yourself. And I always say, just having things that are bigger than you helps you bring perspective back to your mind. And then you can really examine the situation. Like, all right, well, maybe I could do this better, or, you know, and it just gives you that thing. So I tell men, man, like, y'all are married, you're married together. Yeah. Have a business together, have kids together. Like, you have to do things together. You got married for that. Like, do that.
And be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Be really intentional about it. So many people go through life just on a whim. Like, how do you How do you have this one life, this one canvas to paint on, and you're not intentional about it? You're not talking to your spouse or your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. You're not talking to them about what your dreams are, what your hopes are, how you want your life to go. And it's like we've got to be more intentional about the ways in which we're living our lives. And for us in business together, being more intentional about the way that we bring our kids into that as well, right? Like our oldest daughter launched her nonprofit that addresses the needs of the homeless in Broward. She's a part of New Leaders Council, like in the fellowship. Our youngest daughter is about to be in the fellowship as well. Our son, like they've all worked in our business together. So it's really intentional way of doing life that allows them to see that that is possible.
That's beautiful. Y'all just like at the end, y'all just said like some really, really great things. And I was like remembering yours, and then I was like his, and then I was like, gosh, man. It's like
it's recorded, so
yeah, it's recorded.
Run it back.
But y'all gave like really good insight, and I think it's really beautiful, and it's really good reminders to know. One thing you said was just that remembering that you built legacy, you're building legacy, and that's why you're sticking into it. And even just you with your Karen with yours, like just to basically just constantly submitting to the vision that God has given you guys, and you're just like going back to God. Okay, God, I need some help. And I just really honestly, I love the realness, because sometimes we can see people that they're doing well, and you're just like, man, why we're struggling. People can see that. And I think a lot of times people just don't get those real conversations. No, it was not that easy.
No.
We were homeless.
Yep.
We went through this, we went through that. And it's just like, it's really beautiful when people can see that. They see the other side, and then they know in their situation, you can overcome, you can get past it. And I just thought it was really beautiful how you said struggle back to each other, just keep coming back to each other every time. So I'm really thankful to have you guys. We gotta close up because I was like, man, it just
I know it was not enough time.
The hour happened so quick, but we enjoy having you guys here. We're gonna have to get y'all back here next year, because one thing somebody did say, they enjoyed the realness, and it's just like that's what we want. We want to have real conversations all the time, just so that people can just see,
know what they're getting themselves
into.
Yeah.
That is not butterflies and rainbows all the time. No,
that's
it's
okay
not.
though.
Yeah.
If it was butterflies and rainbows all the time, you wouldn't appreciate the butterflies and rainbows.
Exactly.
That is true.
Exactly.
That is so true. But y'all, I'm really excited. Y'all could check out our shirts that we have on. We have some merch that'll be dropping next year.
Nice.
Black Love merch. It has like, I don't know if they'll be able to see my back, but
that is so cool.
The hands,
like some hands and stuff on the back, and he has it too. So yeah, and it's really cute. But I'm really excited. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We excited that we had. Well, we get them on it.
I already got
yeah. So we're really excited to have. I always want to call him Chef. But
you can.
Beyond Chef.
A lot of people do.
So happy to have you guys on here. It's really, really great. You're some really awesome, amazing people, and we'll see you guys next week. Every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was fun. When you looked at me, I was like, yeah.